Today we are honored to welcome a living legend, true hero for Albanian around the world, former US Congressman, Mr. Joe Dioguardi. He's not only the first Albanian American elected to the US Congress, but also the founder of the Albanian American Civic League, the most impactful lobby organization ever created for the Albanian cause in the United States. Known as the father of the Albanian lobby, Mr. Dioguardi has spent decades advocating for Albanian rights in Washington and beyond. Welcome here, Mr. Dioguardi.
Faleminderit shumë.
Faleminderit edhe juve. After meeting the president of our organization, the board, our students and teachers, how do you feel being here today?
I feel like I'm home. Like this is my family. I am Albanian.
It definitely is. It definitely
as well
is.
as American. And I could see how proud everybody here is with their heritage and for what they've done. And I am just amazingly impressed about the scope of this. Not only the building, but the fact that you are doing good things with these young people, education and whatnot.
Mr. Dioguardi, take us back to the beginning. What motivated you to enter politics and later on form the Albanian American Civic League? What was the main motivation?
Well, the first question I should answer, because I want the children to know, you never know what you're going to be when you grow up. So you got to be prepared for things. How do you prepare? You prepare by, number one, studying, number two, working, number three, doing things for other people, number four, in your neighborhood, like this right here, doing good things for other Albanians. And as you then get older, and this is what has to be communicated, you become confident in yourself because you're doing something not just for yourself or your family, but for other people and the nation. Well, I was thinking about that when I was in high school. I didn't think about it when I was in grammar school. And I didn't know that I would run for Congress one day. But the reason that came to be was that I did so well in high school and college that I was given like the top awards. And in one case, when you go to a Catholic university like I did, if you get straight A's for 4 years, that's almost impossible, especially with the Jesuit priests. And I was the only one to do that. And I remember on graduation how proud my parents were. This is in the Bronx, Fordham University, Fordham Road, to see me not only get my diploma, but to hear from the head priest that Joe worked so hard here that he got straight A's for 4 years. Now, that made me feel pretty good. That made me think that I was now someone who could even become better. And the idea kept coming in my mind that maybe one day I will do something more important than just make money. Already I was making a lot of money. I was a partner in a public relations accounting firm. In fact, today I'm the only certified public accountant ever elected to the US Congress. Think about that. At a time everybody's talking about the budget, the deficits, the debt. I've written books about it. And I'm going to leave you with one of them, and maybe later I'll bring a whole box of them for the older ones to start reading and seeing what I accomplished. But you don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a congressman.
It was a plan.
Life is a continuing thing. And by doing something here, it then opens up a door, especially if you did it right, to something else over here. And someday you're going to have to make that decision. What do I want to do when I get married and have kids? How am I going to earn the money to send my kids to good schools and things? This is the kind of progressive thinking that you have.
It has been so many years you being active and contributing in the Albanian cause, but now, how would you describe the current state of the Albanian American community in the United States in general, the lobby and everything else?
Right. It's progressing. When I became a congressman, there were very few Albanians that were even in local elective office. In my own district, Westchester County, back, let's say, 1984, when I became a congressman, I don't think there were many Albanians that could even vote for me. It was a very mixed district, Italian, Jewish, Albanian, not a lot of Albanians back then. And I had to go around speaking, so they got a feeling that I could be their representative in Washington. That's a very important responsibility, to say that I represent now 600,000 people, and that's a district in New York. 600,000, each has a district.
Yes.
And then you put the districts together and you get a congressional seat. But it dawned on me as I started to do better and better in things that someday I'm going to make my parents really proud of who I am and what I'm doing, because I'm going to take more responsibility for the public. And that's what happens when you run for something. Then you represent not your family too, but the public.
During your time, the Albanian community in the United States seemed more united, relying on around you as a leader and representative voice. Today we see individuals acting on their own, often trying to claim the leadership or take a credit with not the same unity. How do you view this shift, and do you think anyone today can represent the Albanians the same way as you did?
I believe there's many opportunities to do that, but they have to have a good education. That's why I said to the children, the most important thing is to get a foundation. You don't build a good building like this without a strong foundation. Then you can add to it, and that's life. When you start something in life, you can always add value to it, not just by building a building, but by giving speeches, by letting people know who you are and what you believe in, so that they can start believing in something. And it's important that people think about, as they get older, whether or not they should become part of public society by becoming elected to something. Now, you could become elected to some, some over here in this building. You have a board, you have offices, you have a president, so you could start as I did. I got elected to different sochatas, and then little by little got comfortable speaking to other people, and then one day I decided to run for Congress.
Do you see a leader right now in Albanian community that can take it after you?
No, because Albanians today are still earning the money they need to give their children a good education and learning how to do so many things that cost money, so they have to first make themselves strong. Once Albanians are strong, their families become stronger. And when your family becomes strong, I just attended, we have an Albanian now that's the chairman of the Board of Legislators in Westchester County. His name is Vedat Gashi. And I went, he's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but parties shouldn't mean anything to you.
Yes.
It's people, good people, and good stories about good people. And I went, but I went anyway. And I gave him a nice contribution. He knew who I was because I lived in his district. But that's the point. You have to see how many people are willing to do what I did. And it starts at an early age. Who wants to become a speaker on graduation, high school, and college? That's called a valedictorian. That is going to be the person that should consider later on being a speaker in the community, maybe like me, going to Congress and speaking for the Albanian people. And that's what I'm doing on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
I remember as a kid in the school, we were learning about you, your activity, your name, and everything else. So your name means so much for all the Albanians all over, not only in the United States. But for the dictator, Slobodan Milosevic, sounds that name was a nightmare. He even mentioned that in his trial in Hague.
Right.
How do you feel that moment when he mentioned your name?
It's the only time I said to myself, thank you to Mr. Milosevic, because he would then get the attention to a lot of other people who didn't know me. So in a way, he did something stupid. He gave me too much attention, and I got stronger. And I said, if this guy, Milosevic, who's killing Albanians left and right, remembers my name, then I have to say to myself, thank you, because now you've given me even more power. You've given me, and that's really what you want. You want people to talk about you, not to talk about yourself.
I think that you always had that power, but because of your modesty, you never say that, and that's why you are who you are, and we are proud to have you.
Thank you.
I want to move now to something else. Like we got to talk a little bit for the Albanian leadership in Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia.
Right.
How do you feel about them? Are they doing the right things?
You know, I don't comment on that because I'm an American. And I don't want people to think that I'm getting involved in politics in Europe. Although I go and give big speeches, I do it through the Congress to wake up congressmen. Who are the Albanian people? Why do they need representation in Congress here? Why was I happy to be a congressman? And yes, we need more congressmen and we need senators, because that's the only way you're going to get enough power to change things.
There is a lot of talk about national unification,
Oh,
but
boy.
not enough action. So what's your take on this, and what would it realistically take?
Albanians have to regret the fact that when World War I was over and they tried to make a solution to World War I, to try to spread power to different people, the Serbs and the Turks had too much power, and they decided to do bad things for the Albanian people. And the worst thing they did was to divide the Albanians into 6 different countries: Turkey, Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania, even Serbia, Yugoslavia. Now, the reason Yugoslavia doesn't exist today is that I'm the one who got rid of it. I went all over Europe to talk against a state that had 3 million Albanians in it. 3 million Albanians were in Yugoslavia with hardly any rights. And they weren't even given their own republic. In fact, in the beginning, we used to ask for Kosovo Republic. When we first, got some power, and we knew that Yugoslavia wasn't doing the job, we started to have big rallies. I had one rally where I got 10,000 people to come, mainly Albanians, but others, and yelling Kosovo Republic.
Yeah,
and then Učica, because we had an army trying an army, it was almost like a private army fighting, armies that were supported by countries like Russia and like others that didn't like the Albanian people. So the beginnings were not good. Thank God for America, we had a president called Woodrow Wilson. You're going to learn this in the history books. He was so smart. He knew the Albanian people, and he decided to stand up for them in 1921 when they were about to kill a state called Albania, because so many people who didn't know what was going on started talking bad about Albanian people. So the compromise was that half the people in Yugoslavia at that time would be put in a state called Albania, and the other half would be put in a multifaceted state called Yugoslavia. But that Yugoslav state had too many Slavs, and they were taking away any power they could from the Albanians. And thank God the Albanians were strong people. They survived that.
I understand you cannot make like a specific statement, but we as members, as a community, we feel it. Like, are you happy with the way the things go in our homeland?
Not enough, because we cannot survive by being a bunch of villages. Or I come from Struga, I come from Greci, or I come from, everybody likes to talk about the village they come from, the town. What about Kumtar? Kumtar is the word in Albanian that means nation. What's your nation? Your nation is the Albanian nation. And we should be all working for that, which is one leader to take us together to make one nation in Europe for the Albanian people. And that's what I tried to do when we created Kosovo. So we started the process. Now, can we do more? I'm giving a speech now in Shkup I hope to go back to Struga and Veleshta because I gave speeches there in the 1991, 92.
I was going to mention that for your experience there. What was your experience in Struga? You mentioned Veleshta too, it's like a big town there.
It was wonderful when you see the whole town come out because already they knew who I was because they saw that this Albanian, American, Italian congressman was speaking for the Albanian people from Veleshta.
Now people there know even more about you and about what you did. So I hope you're going to have a chance to visit Struga again, Veleshta and all the other places there.
I told people that I want to see a few places. I haven't got a month, so I got to do everything like within 4 or 5 days. But I'm going to try my best.
That will be a great
and whatever
honor
it is,
for all of us.
I told the people who know how to do it to take the films there so I can send it all over, the speeches. I'm getting an important, the leaders from Scoop came to an important club that I began for the Italians. It's in Manhattan, and it's on 5th Avenue, right near Central Park. And I made a beautiful dinner. I hate to sound like Trump. He's always saying everything is beautiful, but he doesn't do anything.
You mentioned Trump. How do you feel about, as a Republican, is a Trump good president for Albanian questions?
Not yet. No. He's for himself, number one. He wants to make more money, number two. And he's very jealous of other people, number three. And he's not giving human rights to the people who need it, like the poor people in Gaza.
In general, our experience with American president has been good, and we're just going to hope it's still going to be good. I understand we have to work much more, but I was going to ask you, because in your life, you met a lot of famous people like presidents, prime minister, and a lot of activists.
Yes.
What is your proudest moment in your decades of advocacy? Can you mention a moment or two?
Sure. Well, my favorite president was Reagan. Why? Because I got elected when he was president. And he got to know me as an accountant. Accountants are very rare in Washington. And when he got to know me, it was easy for me to ask him to do certain things for the Albanian people. And one thing he did, you come to my house, you'll see the picture on the wall in the Oval Office, me and Reagan, and that was the first time I raised the issue of the Albanian people. So that was a very proud moment for me. Now, that shouldn't be just in my house. I've got to make sure before I die that there's a beautiful museum someplace in the Balkans, I hope it's going to be Kosovo, where all the things that were given to me as I traveled all over the world are going to be in that museum with computers that have all these YouTube videos and everything, so that when young people come, these people are going to be older, they're going to come there, they're going to press the button like the Kennedy Museum up in Harvard, you know. I want to hear that speech by Joe Dioguardi, you know, when he was making the case in front of Senator Biden for the Albanian people to drop the bombs on Serbia. And that's what happened. He listened to me. He had the wrong information about the Albanians. So it's important that we remember that, and I'm sure there are other things that I would like to see done, that when somebody, for instance, that speech that Milosevic gave, why shouldn't these Albanian young people hear him mentioning my name? He was complaining that I satanized him, like I was the devil that was talking against him. And no, I was telling the truth, that the Serbs and the Serbian government was doing bad things against the Albanian people.
There is a lot of history, definitely. I remember as a kid hearing your name in the school from our teachers, and now I'm interviewing you is like a big, proud moment for me. So thank you for being here. And I was going to ask you, because you mentioned President Reagan, but in our history, you met a lot of Albanian leaders.
Yes.
Would you like to mention somebody for your special experience you had with?
Well, in 1993, when I worked very hard to get rid of communism in Albania, and we did finally in 1991 and 2, when I represented the Albanian people to have their own state. It began then. And one of the things that happened was Sali Berisha got elected because I decided to go there and to tell the Albanian people I would never want to just support an Albanian for president or for another thing. But I knew we had to get rid of communism, because communism was a bunch of lies. I hate to say it. And you have people today that come out of that form that think it was useful, maybe. But it wasn't, because it held the Albanian people back. But when I became a congressman, I decided to go to Belgrade to start talking against communists. And that was very tough. And people said, Joe, you're going to get shot. They're going to kill you. This is the way they operate. If they don't like somebody, they don't like to just talk and try to convince you. And we had a wonderful lobbyist in Europe, Enver Hoxha, in 1990, that was killed by UDBA. UDBA was the secret service of the Serbian people and the communist people. And he was killed. And they asked me, the wife called me, Joe, will you come to Brussels? They lived in Brussels. And will you be the spokesman at his funeral? I did. It's on, you go to YouTube, you should be able to see that.
Lastly, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I
know you want to get in a lot.
Yes, there is a lot of questions.
But they didn't tell me that I should have been here for a day if you want to interview me.
So we have, I understand the time we have, so I'm going to ask you for your...
since you're doing it, I'm happy.
Thank you very much. It's our pleasure, of course. Now, just to close this beautiful moment for us, I will ask you, what's your message to all Albanians, the young generations, that you would like to tell them through our center, through our screen?
Okay. There's no better message for me to give here and today than to tell young Albanians to become better Americans. Learn the history of America. Learn the civics. Understand what made this country come together so that we had a constitution and we had the ability to form a new government and separate ourselves from a king. Don't forget, we are a democracy. This is what you have to teach the kids. A democracy means that we have the freedom to speak. No one's going to tell me not what to talk about unless we're trying to hurt somebody, right? So we have to be sure that the children know that democracy is the basis of American values. Now that doesn't mean you have one party. You can have a lot of parties, but those parties have to be loyal to the Constitution that was formed as the state. And we're going to have to go through this too, because I would like to see a new constitution for the Albanian people in Europe, so that they become a nation, Kamtar. And until that happens, you're not going to have all the privileges and the benefits that you need. And then that will result in more congressmen, because you're going to be looking for people to be spokesmen around America for the Albanian people. So far that has not happened. Albanians have been elected to things that are good, school districts, all kinds of districts, but we need to be elected to the top district, which is Washington. And that requires congressmen, House members, the House of Representatives, and senators. Now, I'm not bashful to say it. I ran for the U.S. Senate, but it takes $10 million. I only raised $3 million. I wanted to become a senator for the Albanian people, but I couldn't convince Albanians to stop buying new cars, these big weddings for their kids, houses. Am I going to tell Albanians what to do? But that's the problem. They would rather buy all those things than invest in someone who could have become a senator, because it takes big money to become a senator. Now, I'm going to say that because that's part of your education, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Dioguardi, you are the second interview in this podcast that we are starting now in our center. And the first was the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Albin Kurti. You are
Wonderful.
The second one. We hope we continue this way with all you guys. Thank you very much for your decades of tireless work for the Albanian cause, and may your legacy inspires generations of Albanians to come. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And don't forget what I said inside to the young children. When I come back next time, I want to see those 10 words. If it is to be, it is up to me. They have to know that they have more power when they believe in themselves and they work for themselves and their families, And that's the way you become strong.
The president of the organization is right here, and I
Okay.
believe that's a done deal.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's an
Thank you.
honor.
Thank you very much.
You don't say Monday. Well.